Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some DIYs to share with you using things you probably already have. And these are going to be rustic vintage DIYs. So if you want to how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? Okay, for this first one, we're going to use 2 cans that measure 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm just going to take a nail setting tool and I'm going to punch a hole down into the center of these. And this is real easy to do. These go through these cans pretty easily. You just need a kind of a small hole. Okay, next I'm just going to take a bell that I painted brown. These are just some silver bells that I got at Hobby Lobby and I painted them brown. And I'm going to string them on some jute. We are making some jingle bells. So you just want it just long enough to go into the can but not pulling out of the bottom of it. And we're going to put 2 bells per can. And you want one just a little bit longer than the other one. And then go ahead and tie your bell onto the string like that. And then we're going to take some hot glue to put at the end to hold these together so we can get it run through that hole in that can. Just put a little bit of hot glue at the end, just kind of twist them up together. And then that way you'll be able to get them through that hole. You'll want to run both of them through there together. Okay, once you get them through there, then we're going to tie them into a knot. And then just glue that right into that hole. And then just cut off the excess string. Next, I'm going to take a little half ornament. These measure 3 inches in diameter. And I'm just going to cut the little tab off of these. And you can get these just about anywhere. I'm just going to take a little hand sander to sand that down smooth. Okay, next I'm just going to glue these right to the top part of my can. I'm just going to put some glue right around the edge there and then just push that on. That way you won't have any glue oozing out the bottom if you do it this way. And then just push it on there, make sure you got it straight, and then let that dry. Just make sure you do get it straight. Next I'm going to take a wooden ring that measures 1 1/2 and I'm going to sand down just one section of this. Just going to try to get it to where it is flat. And it's really easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Just kind of take a sander and then just sand it till it's flat. And you're going to do both of your rings exactly the same way. Okay, next to attach these to my cans, I'm just going to use some hot glue and just center it right there into the center. Just make sure it is standing straight up. I'm going to take these outside and I'm going to spray paint them with a matte black paint. For this next step, you want to put on some little plastic gloves, and then you're going to use some plastic wrap, just some kitchen plastic wrap. And then we're going to take a gold gilding paint. You could use Rub and Buff or anything like that. It'll work about the same way. I'm just going to pour this onto my plastic wrap, and then I'm going to roll my can in it. Okay, once you pour that in there, you want to start squeezing your paper together to kind of get it mixed around, and then just start rolling your little can down inside of it. And then you can just start patting it around, and this dries pretty quick, so you have to kind of move quickly. And it starts to get pretty sticky, so you can grab another piece of the plastic wrap to finish it out. But just try to get as much on here as you can where you still see some of the black in the background. And you definitely want to wear gloves on this because this is an oil-based paint and you'll have to kind of clean your hands with turpentine if not. This really goes on pretty easily and you do have plenty of time to kind of play with it a little bit. But you do want to get it on the handle as well. And then that's about how much gold I put on it so you can kind of see the difference between the two. Next I got this garland from Hobby Lobby and I'm just going to fold it in half to tighten it up so it is a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to wrap it around the bottom part of my little hook on my can. Figure out how much you need, and then I'm just going to cut this in half and use half of it on one can and half on the other. So just push it around there, and then you're going to do the same thing for the other can. And that was pretty much it. I think these turned out so cute. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, for this next one, I'm going to take 2 vegetable cans and I'm going to spray paint it with a satin white paint. Next, I'm taking a piece of copy paper and I'm just going to cut some tissue paper to go around it, and I'm going to tape this on. That way I can run it through my printer and I can create my own little Mod Podge print. Just really make sure that you get it taped pretty flat all the way around so that when it goes into your printer, it doesn't tear. Next, I just ran these through my printer, and I've given you these patterns in the description below. You can just download them and then print them out on your own tissue paper. And we're just going to cut it right around our paper so that we can have just the tissue paper part to use in our project. Next, for my glue, I got this decoupage napkin glue from Deco Art, and I'm going to use this on my cans. I have never used this before. This is the first time I've used it, but actually I really liked it when I got done. So you want to put a generous amount on your can, get into the grooves real good, because we are going to push our napkin down into the grooves as well. So really cover this good. And then you can start right in the center, adding your picture, getting it straight, and then you can continue to glue all the way around. Now mine is going to be a little bit short in the back, but I fixed the print for y'all so it will go all the way around a can. And then you're going to smooth it out with plastic wrap. That way you're not touching it and it's not pulling away. This works really good for decoupage to use with the plastic wrap because it won't stick to your paper. And then just continue gluing all the way till you get it completely on. Just kind of really make sure that you are getting it straight. And then when you do the plastic wrap, just make sure that you are pushing it down into the grooves. And then this is where mine was a little bit short, you can see, but I fixed yours to be all the way around. And then you want to set that aside and let that dry really well. I'm doing my other one exactly the same way. I really like these little truck prints. Let me know what you think in the comments. And this one actually goes all the way around. It's not short like the one I just did. But definitely use your cellophane because that's what's going to make it stick to the can without sticking to your fingers. Okay, after that's dried, I'm going to take some white paint and a chip brush, and I'm going to distress my cans. I'm going to go right over the print to do this. Get most of the paint off of your brush and then just lightly brush it all the way around. And I'm going to put mine pretty heavily. I just want these cans to look a little bit more vintage looking, and this really worked good. And I'm going to kind of go fast on this so you can see what I'm doing, but you can be able to see how much of the white paint I'm using. And I'm going to do my other can exactly the same way, and that's how those turned out. Okay, next I'm going to distress them with a little bit of a black paint. I'm just going to take my chip brush, brush most of the paint off, and I'm just going to kind of go around the can, around the edges of it, and then I am going to go a little bit onto the inside as well. And again, your label will cover up that opening that's right there. Mine was just a little bit short, but yours will cover that up. Then I am going to come across the face of the can as well to get a little bit of the black inside of here too. Just gives a little bit more of a rustic vibe. And then again, if you don't like the rustic look on this, you could just leave it just plain without putting any paint on it. Next, to seal my cans, I'm going to take some of that same decoupage napkin glue and I'm going to go over my entire can on both of these. This just is really going to seal this in and it'll protect it so that if it gets wet, it's not going to ruin it. But you want to put a pretty generous amount on here. To decorate my cans, I'm going to take a couple of bottle brush trees and I'm just going to cut the bottom of them off. And then I'm just going to glue them into these little spools that I got. Just kind of stick it down in there and let that dry. Make sure it does stand up straight because that doesn't have a lot of room in there to hold that together. The glue is pretty much what's holding it in there. Because the opening was a little bit bigger than the wire, so you kind of have to take some time on this part. As it dried, I'm just going to glue each one of these to the center of my can. Now, if your tree doesn't stand up just perfect with bottle brush trees, you can just bend them to make them straight. Next, to decorate the top of my can, I'm just going to use some of this reindeer moss I got from Hobby Lobby. And I really like the color of this one. This one was more of a muted green color instead of the more yellow-green color. And then I'm just going to cover the very top part of my can with this. I'm going to put it pretty thick, and I'm just going to hot glue it straight on. Just kind of tear it apart. This is a really good one because it does stick together pretty good. It's not real messy. Just kind of pull some pieces apart and just kind of push it up underneath there, underneath that tree. And I'm going to put this all the way around. This kind of just dressed up the top of the can a little bit. And I am putting it on pretty thick. And then I'm going to do my other can exactly the same way. But just kind of press it down a little bit so it's not touching the bottom of the tree. You just want it on top of the can. Next, to dress it up a little bit, I'm going to take these little small pine cones. I got these at Hobby Lobby. You get a bunch of these in a bag. They're pretty good price. And I'm just going to start gluing these right underneath the tree, kind of randomly spread apart. And then just kind of make sure that your moss is glued all the way to the edge of that can. And that's how those look. But then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of snow effect. Since the trees have snow on them, I'm going to take some white paint, just a white acrylic paint. I'm just going to dip my finger in it, and I'm going to lightly brush it over the moss. This will just give it a little bit more of a snow look. Since the trees have snow on them, it just made sense that the ground had some snow on it as well. And I'm not adding a lot, just kind of brush them, and then you want to brush the pine cones as well. And this is how these turned out. I think they turned out so cute. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Whoa, I love it.
This next one, I'm just going to use an empty peanuts container. This is a 12-ounce can. And you want to go ahead and take all the paper off of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but do take your paper off of it. And you don't have to get any of the goo off of it. That's fine, just like that. Next, we're going to take a piece of thin craft foam, and we're just going to wrap it around here, get a measurement on it. We just want enough to go all the way around the can. And so I'm just going to cut that part off and save that for something else. And we'll trim it all out here in a minute. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a leather-looking piece of craft foam. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. You're going to grab a piece of foil, wad it up really good, and then you're going to take a heat source. I'm just taking an embossing gun, and I'm going to work in sections. So you want to heat it up really good, and then you're going to start taking your foil and pressing it into it so it does give it a texture here. And I'll zoom in on it here too so you can kind of see what it looks like. But you just kind of take your time and work in sections. You want to work the whole thing. And the more heat that you put on it, the better it goes in. Now, if you heat up your area again, once you've already done it, then you are going to lose your texture. It will lift right back up out of there. So spend a little time really pushing this in here. And then you're going to continue to do this until you have your complete piece of craft foam done. And if you have a section that looks like it's not deep enough, just heat it back up and do it again. But the more you press that in there, the more leather look you're going to get. And then the longer that you apply the heat, the more definition you're going to get with the foil. So you want to just kind of keep going. If you want to do sections again that weren't good enough, keep doing it until you get the texture that you want. And then you're going to continue to do this until you have your complete sheet finished. Next, I'm going to take some burnt umber paint, and I'm going to paint the entire thing with a sponge brush. This is going to be our base for our leather. If you don't have a burnt umber, just use a dark brown. Just make sure that you are putting a brown on here. And then get this covered up completely. And you might need 2 coats, but 1 coat actually worked pretty good. And you can kind of see the texture in it now as you're adding the paint. But make your strokes completely straight. Don't go up and down, backwards, different ways. Keep going the same direction the whole way because you want your same texture to be the same. Just really get it covered up good so you don't see any of the other color. Then I'm going to lightly dry this with my embossing gun. Don't stay in one place any length of time. Just kind of lightly dry it. You just want to get it a little bit more dry before we go on to the next step. Okay, next I'm going to take a cup of water. I'm going to add a little bit of black paint into it, and I'm going to mix it up really good. You're not going to put a lot of paint, just enough to get it just a black colored water. Mix it up good, and then we're going to take a sponge brush and we are going to brush it onto our craft foam. So get it pretty saturated. This is what's going to really give it that leather effect. And we're going to do this in sections. So once you get this part done, you're just going to take a paper towel or a little cotton rag and then start dabbing it. This is what's going to really give the nice effect look on this. It's going to remove some of the paint in some sections, and it's going to put the black paint down into the grooves. So you can kind of see right here how it's already starting to look like leather. Then flip it over and do your other side exactly the same way. And then you want to remove it while it's still wet. All right, can you see how that's already looking like leather? That turned out pretty good. Let me know what you think. So I'm going to take a piece of white craft foam. I'm going to draw a circle around my can so I can kind of see where the top part of my can is. And then I'm going to cut a circle around it about maybe 1.5 inches larger than the circle I just drew. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Give it some little curves and stuff like that. You don't want it to be a perfect circle. And then I ended up coming in a little bit closer to it, so I'd say probably about 1 inch from the center of that circle. You're going to want to cut 2 of these, so you need one for the top and one for the bottom. And then we're going to do these exactly like we did the brown craft foam. We're going to heat it up and we're going to put some indents in it in both circles. Just really get it heated up good, and then start putting your foil down on there, pushing it in. And you'll see it here in a minute. You can't really tell on the white as much as you did on the brown, but you will once we get going on the color part of it. But just really take your hand and push that foil into that. And you're going to do both pieces exactly the same way. So I'm going to take a tan colored paint, and then I'm going to mix some white with it to kind of make it a little creamy color. Just mix that together. If you have a cream colored paint, just use that instead. And then I'm going to paint both of my little round circles exactly the same color. And I think I ended up having to put 2 coats on this to get it completely covered. And be sure and get your edges as well. You're going to lightly dry these with an embossing gun or a hair dryer. And then we're going to mix our same mixture with the water and the black paint. And you're going to really saturate your piece of craft foam. And dig down into the bottom where the paint is. You want to make sure you get some paint on that. And then start dabbing it off with your rag just like we did the other one. And then you want to set those aside and let them dry really good. So you're going to take your craft foam and you're going to cut it just big enough to go into the center of your can. And we're going to start gluing this in. And then you're going to just meet at the end. You're not going to overlap, so just go all the way around and then just meet at the end in the center. But you want to put plenty of glue because you want this to hold really well. And then once you get to here, just go ahead and trim it off so that they do meet into the center. And this leather method right here, this would work really good for making straps for baskets and things like that. It's just a really good technique for making it look like leather. And then once you get that trimmed up to where they meet, just finish gluing that in. And you can stretch this stuff too. If you get it too short, you can pull it a little bit to make it go where you need it to go. So we're going to glue our top on. We're just going to go right around the edge of our can and put some glue because this has a raised edge on it. So you just want to go right around the edge. And we're going to glue all this in onto the side of the can here in a little bit. Just make sure you do get it pretty centered. Spend some time on this part. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue right around the ledge and pull it on down just like that. And you can heat it up too. If you heat it up, it does start to kind of form around your can. It works a little bit better if you do that. And then just put a little bit of glue all the way around the edge and then just push that on down. And we're going to glue this in completely here in a little bit. But just hold that till it dries really good. And you're going to do exactly the same thing for the opposite side. Next, I'm going to take a tape measure and just go all the way around my container. Mine ended up measuring 14 inches all the way around. So just measure yours, and then we're going to start right at the crease in the back, and we're going to make a mark every 2 inches. And this way we'll have it exactly the same all the way around, since ours was an even number on our container. Next, I'm going to take an 1/8 inch hole punch, and I'm going to punch a hole right where I did my mark. So come up probably at least 1/4 of an inch, if not a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and just go ahead and punch all your holes. Next, I'm taking some suede cording that I had. I'm going to start in the very back. I'm going to run it through the front to the back, and then I'm just going to glue this one in. And we're going to start threading this. We're going to come from the top down to the bottom. We're going to punch a hole and then go back up to our second hole. And we're going to continue to do this all the way around until we have this completely threaded to look like a drum. Just mark your hole right there. Just punch it. And then go all the way around, just kind of measuring exactly how much cording you're going to need to finish this out, because you want to go ahead and cut it off so that you can start threading it through. So you can go through your bottom hole, and then you're going to come up through your top hole, and you're going to continue to go all the way around doing this exact same method. So you'll punch a hole in the bottom once you figure out exactly what the center part is for your next hole, and then just continue to go. So kind of pull it on down there and pull it tight. You don't want it to be loose. You want this to be pretty tight, and just kind of glue between times so that it does hold it in place. And I am going to go fast on this. As you can see what I'm doing, I'm pretty much just doing the same step all the way around. And you're just going to go all the way till you get back to the beginning. And then glue little sections together as you're going. Just kind of hold them up there. And then we'll get this completely glued in here in a little bit. But just keep going at that diagonal all the way till you get to the opposite side. Once you get to the end, just cut that off, and we're just going to glue that into the back. Just tuck it up underneath there and glue that in. And then we're going to start going around our drum and just really gluing all this in here so it is flat. So just spend some time on this part. Just make sure that you do get it all tucked down so that it doesn't lift. Want to mix up a little bit more of that paint, and then go ahead and cover up the holes, because you will see the white through those. So you do want to spend a little bit of time getting some paint covering these. I'm going to use some jute twine, and I'm going to wrap it around several times just to see exactly how much I need. And then I'm going to match that to the one on the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm going to take this outside with my lighter, and I'm going to get all the little fringe pieces off of my jute. So figure out how much you need, cut it, and then match it up for the one on the bottom. And then I am going to go outside and do this on concrete because it was kind of light and I didn't want to burn myself. Next, we're just going to take our drum. We're going to wrap it around all the way till you get to the opposite side, and then we're just going to tie this off into a knot. Just kind of make sure it does stay straight. You just want it in one place. You don't want any gaps between your jute. And then just tie that onto a knot, and then we're just going to cut the excess off. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for the bottom. Okay, next, to make some drumsticks, I'm just taking a couple of beads, and I'm taking some barbecue skewers, and I'm just going to glue these in. So just get them however long you want them. Just make sure that both of them match, and then we're just going to glue them onto our beads. And then my skewers were a little bit smaller than that hole in there, so once you put that in there, push it all the way to the end and just let that dry. It'll adhere to the side of the bead. And then I'm going to take some of the burnt umber paint, and I'm going to paint both of them. And I'm going to paint the handle as well. And I'm just going to attach them right to the side. I think this is a cute little primitive drummer boy drum. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration to take some things that you already have and turn your trash into treasure. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.